Hello everyone, my name is Sathya and in this video I'm going to talk about some basic test taking strategies. Now before the examination there are certain things that you must be asking yourself. Is your preparation thorough? Have you seen the recommended syllabus for this particular examination? Have you seen the type of questions which have been asked in the past year papers if they are made available? Are you mentally ready for those crucial 120 minutes, assuming that it's a 2-hour paper? If it's a 90-minute paper, then the 90 minutes, or if it's a 3-hour paper, then those 180 minutes. And most importantly, are you well rested? Because a tired body and a tired mind can never perform at its optimum levels. Cramming the entire night without sleep on the eve of the examination is never a good idea. Remember, if you haven't prepared well the entire year, last minute revision or last minute preparation is not going to help you much. On the other hand, if you are thoroughly rested before the paper, your brain will function at its optimum levels and your outcome will be fantastic. Now remember, the best ally or the worst enemy that you can have in an examination is time. Your watch is an absolutely essential accessory that you must carry with yourself when you are in the examination hall. Because when you are engrossed in the paper, it is easy to lose track of time. On the other hand, if you have developed the ability to constantly keep an eye on time, it helps you a lot in developing and modifying your strategy as and when required during the course of the entrance exam. So I'm now going to particularly talk about entrance examination sections. Which section do I start with? Now there are two different schools of thoughts. One would say that the toughest section for you should be the one that you should start with, because you are most mentally fresh at the beginning of the paper. So with most of your mental faculties alert, it would be rather easy to crack the questions of the toughest section in the beginning rather than leave them for the end when you're always stressed out. On the other hand, some people believe that the easiest section is the one to start with, because the easiest section would give you a lot of confidence boost. When you see a lot of answers having been marked on the answer sheet, you will realize that this paper is not that tough and you are going ahead at a good pace. So what is my recommendation? Well, try both these strategies in the various mock papers that you are appearing for, and you yourself can determine which strategy gives you the best outcome. If giving the toughest section and go first is good for you, go for it, or vice versa. The choice is yours, but don't make this choice at the last moment. Decide beforehand the strategy that is going to work the best for you. Now, here is an example of the flow of sections that I would take in a law entrance examination like the CLAT. I would first start with the GK and current affairs section, where in about 15 minutes I would try to attempt maybe all the questions. Then I move ahead to English, where I only touch the vocabulary and grammar based questions which are pretty short and simple to answer. The next section that I would attempt is reasoning, where I only touch questions like series, coding or analogies, which do not consume more than 15 to 20 seconds to solve. My fourth attempt is towards math, maybe 10 questions out of 20 which are short, sweet, simple and from the topics that I'm most comfortable with. Then I go ahead with legal. In the legal section, if aptitude questions are present and there are more than 15-20 aptitude questions, I attempt about 15 to 20 of them. Then I come back to reasoning, where I go with the medium level questions like puzzles, maybe relations and directions and so on. I go back to mathematics, and from the remaining 10 questions which are left, I only attempt those which I'm reasonably comfortable with, and I consciously leave the tough ones. I come back to the legal section where if any aptitude question is left, I attempt them, and then if any awareness questions, any legal GK questions are to be attempted, I go through them. I move ahead and go back to the reasoning section where I attempt the remaining questions. At the end of the paper, I go to the English section, and then if time permits, I take a look at the jumbled passages and reading comprehension based questions. Whatever is left now, if time permits, is what I'm going to attempt at the very end of the paper. So as you can see, I have this habit of jumping between sections if that is permitted, and most entrance examinations do not restrict you to sections. It's a very rare examination like the LSAT where you do not have the choice of allocating your required amount of time in your preferred order to different sections. But most examinations like the CLAT, ILET or SET have no such restrictions, and you are free to jump between sections in whatever time frame that you wish. Do I complete all questions of a particular section before I move on to the next? Well, the choice is yours. Some people believe that if I get into the groove of solving GK questions, then I would rather complete them before taking on anything else. Or if I am starting mathematics section, I would rather complete the section before moving on. In my case, I get tired of attempting the same kind of questions again and again over a prolonged period of time. So it is my choice to keep moving between these sections if the paper permits. So the answer to this question again is experiment, see what works the best for you and stick to it. How much time do I spend on a single section? Well, that again pretty much depends on your abilities, on your comfort with that particular section and your speed of reading. For example, these are the recommended time limits if you are a person like me. I would spend about 25 minutes on English, 15 minutes on math, 25 on reasoning, 15 minutes on GK and about 30 minutes on legal, with the remaining spare time being spent on any of the sections which requires more attention. But then again remember, such time allocations should not be set in stone. What if the English section is completely vocabulary based? You may not require more than 10 minutes for that. But what if it is completely reading comprehension passages based? You might need more time. Similarly, if the legal section has 50 aptitude questions, you might require 10 to 15 minutes more to read them. And if there are no fact and principle based questions, if it's purely legal awareness and GK, you might require under 20 minutes. So be ready to allocate the time according to the demands of that particular paper, right? So I keep this as a general benchmark, but don't strictly adhere to it. My final allocation always happens at the point when I'm actually attempting the paper. So this is the last stretch. At 30 minutes into the paper, I mentally check, have I attempted at least 35 to 40 questions? At again the 60-minute mark, have I attempted at least 80 to 90 questions? At the 90-minute mark, have I attempted at least 120 to 150 questions? At the 105th minute, have I attempted at least 160 plus questions? And after 115 minutes, that is when just 5 minutes are left to the end of the exam, I quickly check, have I actually saved the marked answers if it is an online test, or have I transferred my answers to the OMR sheet if they are a paper and pencil based test. Now remember, the number of attempts may vary drastically. If it's a very easy paper, I might be up to 60 to 70 questions in the first 30 minutes. Or if it's a very difficult paper, I might not have even done 15 to 20 questions in the first 30 minutes. So don't worry, but the only thing is you have a fair idea of what the paper is going to be like in the first 5 to 10 minutes. So every half an hour, just keep a mental check of these are the number of questions which have been done, and don't pressurize yourself that I have so many questions left. Just see, am I going at a steady pace or do I actually need to increase my speed? Am I spending or wasting too much of time in attempting questions which are unanswerable? In that case, you need to learn to throw those questions aside and continue with something which is actually going to garner you more marks. So remember, these entrance exams are not the end all and be all for your career. Worrying about the outcome of the paper when you're actually attempting the paper is not at all fruitful. I have seen students 10 minutes into the paper, having faced 10 to 15 difficult questions, simply give up hope, assuming that the remaining paper is as tough. No paper setter has ever been told that a simple general aptitude test has to be progressively difficult. Yes, such progressively difficult tests do exist, but most of our entrance examinations are not so. So stop worrying about the outcome of the paper. Completely focus on the question that you're attempting and think about nothing else. Remember, a tough paper is actually good for the student who is prepared, because an easy paper can be cracked by anybody, right? It is the tough paper which tests your mettle, your intelligence, your knowledge and your preparation. So if the paper is tough, be happy. And also remember, if the paper is tough for me, so is it for all the other aspirants, because it's a level playing field. I only need to score more than what the others can score. So stop worrying about any cutoff scores. I've seen students coming up to me and asking, "Sir, what should be the cutoff this year? How much should I score in this paper?" My dear friend, nobody can predict the cutoffs before taking a look at the paper. The same exam conducted a couple of years back would have given 160 as the cutoff, and in 2 years later would have a cutoff of around 130 marks, right? So the level of paper is very different. The pattern of the paper keeps changing. So based on past experiences, you cannot extrapolate it to the future ones. Just remember, worrying about cutoffs is not going to make any difference in improving your scores. Rather, it would distract you from attempting the questions. So stop worrying about all those things. Just focus on the paper. Never get stuck on any question. For example, if you're a mathematics stud and you always manage to crack all the questions of mathematics in your practice tests, but in the actual paper, if the math questions are of a difficulty level which is beyond you, you cannot let your ego come in between and say that I've always done well, I have to do well here. Remember, it's a game shift. It's a change, right? You have to adapt to it. Surprisingly, you might actually end up scoring good in the actual paper in a section which was mediocre or even poor for you when you're preparing for it. So never assume anything, never get stuck on any question. And keep the one mantra in your mind: I will always attempt questions to the best of my ability. That's it, right? I'm not going to let any pressure work on my mind. I'm not going to worry about the outcome of the exam. I'm not going to worry about how many questions the others were able to attempt. I'm not going to worry about the number of questions I used to attempt in my model test papers vis-a-vis the number of questions I'm attempting now. Nothing. It's you versus the paper. That's it. I hope this video helps you getting some insights into the mental preparation that is required to crack any entrance exam. Speaking from experience, I know that it is not tough cracking any paper. All it takes is the right kind of attitude coupled with determination and preparation. This was a video on test taking strategies. My name is Sathya. I wish you all the best. Have a good day.